Hey guys, what's up? So let us discuss the class 8th and class 9th NCERT important topics, and it will really help you in your UPSC civil service exam preparation as well as for other government exams. And before we start, do subscribe to Unacademy to get notification of these live sessions and videos, and it will really help you in your preparation for all the exams which are possible. So first of all, we will deal with the class 8th. Chapter 1 is crop production and management. So here we deals with Kharif and Rabi crops. Then very important concept. Okay, they always ask rice is a Kharif crop or Rabi crop. Wheat, maize, corn, peas, pulses, all these are Rabi crops or Kharif crops. So this is a very typical question which is asked by UPSC in almost all the exams. Then the second is manure versus fertilizers. So what are the pros and cons of each of them? Why is manure better or why is fertilizer better? So you will have to tell about that. Then traditional and modern methods of irrigation. So that is also very important. So what are the traditional form of irrigation? What are the modern methods of irrigation? Then what is the need for weeding, and what is the importance of animal husbandry? Okay, it's a direct question out there. Then chapter 2 is microorganisms, whether they are friend or enemy or friend or foe. So you will have to talk about definitions and types of microbes. It is very important. Diseases caused by them. Then focus on their role in our daily life. For example, how do they help us? They help us through nitrogen fixation, curd formation, yeast in baking, then commercial and medicinal use of them. Example, we use them in alcohol, antibiotics, how the vaccines work, then pathogens and how they cause various diseases in humans, animals and plants. Then try to memorize table 2.1 and 2.2. Then some common pasteurization, some common preservatives, pasteurization, nitrogen cycle. Here you have practiced the figure 2.10 very well. Okay, so that's how we get started. Chapter 3 is synthetic fibers and plastics. So try to know about types of synthetic fibers, their daily uses, ways to minimize the damage caused to the environment due to their improper disposal, etc. Then chapter 4 is materials, that is metals and non-metals. So just read the physical properties of metals and non-metals and try to skip the rest of the chapter that is not really needed. So for example, metals are ductile, metals are malleable, metals are sonorant, metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. So all these are important points. Then chapter 5 is coal and petroleum. So try to understand the process of formation of coal, that is carbonization. Then what is coke, what is coal tar and coal gas and their uses, and mechanism and places of formation of petroleum, its refining products and their uses. See the table 5.1 for this, and various natural gas reserves in our own country, that is India. Then you have combustion and flame. So here just speed read this chapter, no need to go in much details when you are reading this particular chapter. So just go through it very fast, rapidly, and focus on last page which gives the consequences of burning of fuels. So there are a lot of consequences of burning of fuels: global warming, increased temperature, pollution, etc., which you have already seen in case of Delhi. City is very nightmarish right now. Then you have chapter 7, which is conservation of plants and animals. So causes and consequences of deforestation, definition of various protected areas like national park, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, etc. Then case study of biosphere reserves like flora and fauna. Then endemic species. Okay, what are the species which are called as endemic? So the species which are found only in one particular location, they are called as endemic species. Examples of threatened and endangered wildlife animals, concept of ecosystem, red data book, migration of birds, all these are important concepts. Then you have chapter 8, which is cell. So deal with the structure and functions of it. So what is the difference between multicellular and unicellular organisms? What are the tissues, part of the cell and their functions? Prokaryotic versus eukaryotic cells, comparison of plant and animal cells. So all these becomes very important when it comes to study, very important. Like you might find questions coming out from class 8th NCERT itself. Then chapter 9 is reproduction in animals. Since many of you will never open 11th and 12th class biology NCERT, so it is here that you need to study in detail. Okay, so reproduction in animals, talk about sexual reproduction versus asexual reproduction, then male and female reproductive organs and their functions, fertilization, in vitro fertilization versus in vivo, and development of embryo, viviparous and oviparous animals, then concept of metamorphosis, budding, binary fission, in which organism does it happen, why does it happen, and so on. Then chapter 10 is reaching the age of adolescence. So read the parts which is related to the hormones, rest all is not required that much. Then chapter 11 is force and pressure. Since they do not ask that many questions from physics and chemistry, so you can just read the parts very fast, nothing much important is there. Now friction is something which they ask questions from. Chapter 12, friction. So which are the factors affecting frictions, necessity of friction, what is the difference between rolling friction and sliding friction, why it is called as the necessary evil, and the applications in daily life of the friction. Then chapter 13 deals with sound. So know the characteristics of sound waves, oscillatory motion, and important point in this chapter is noise pollution. So try to understand about the noise pollution at least. Then you have chapter 14, which is chemical effects of electric current. So here read about electroplating and its application. So how does it work? Then chapter 15 is some natural phenomenon. So understand the reasons behind lightning, earthquakes, protection against earthquakes. So all these are important. Then chapter 16 is light. So know about the concepts of reflection, refraction, lateral inversion, diffusion, dispersion of light, parts and functioning of human eye. कभी कभार क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं उसमें से भी. Basics of Braille system, how does it work, etc. Then chapter 17 is stars and the solar system. So various phases of the moon, some famous constellations, planets of solar system and their characteristics, asteroids, comets, meteors, meteorites, artificial satellites of India, their practical applications. So this is again very important. And then finally chapter 18 is pollution of air and water. Since a lot of emphasis goes on environment and ecology, so this chapter becomes important. So various reasons for air pollution, various air pollutants, smog and its formation, CFCs, their effect on ozone layer, causes and consequence of acid rain. This is important. Acid rain se aate hain. All about greenhouse effect and global warming. This is also important. Then causes and consequence of water pollution, case study of Ganga, methods of water purification, etc. Then let us start with the class 9th NCERT. So chapter 1 is matter in our surroundings. So here have a basic understanding of states of matter and their basic properties, melting point, latent heat of fusion, latent heat of evaporation, pressure and temperature relation, PV is equals to nRT. Then factors which affect the evaporation, practical application of evaporation, it is very important. And there is solid, liquid, gas. Everybody knows about the three states of matter, but there are other two as well. So plasma and Bose-Einstein condensate. So read about them as well. Then chapter 2 is matter around us pure. So here study the basics of mixtures, solutions, alloys, suspension, colloids, their properties and some examples. Then you have Tyndall effect, then centrifugation and its practical applications. So sorry for that, some internet issue. Then chapter 4 is structure of the atom. So read the basics of Thomson's Rutherford and Bohr's model, and you can skip the rest of the chapter. Then chapter 5 is fundamental unit of life. So try to read about various parts of the cell and their functions and significance, because that is asked in the exam. Then chapter 6 is tissues. So deal with plant tissues versus animal tissues. What is meristematic tissue, growth tissue basically. Then permanent tissue. What is the difference between simple and complex tissue, connective tissue, nervous tissue, etc. Then chapter 7 is diversity in living organisms. So classification of animals into kingdoms and subgroups like Monera, Protista, fungi, their characteristics, functions and examples. Classification of plants is also important. Then practice the figure 7.1. How does it start? One is Thallophyta, then you have Bryophyta, then you have Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. So these are the 5 classification: algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay. Then classification of animals. Try to know their important features. 2 to 3 important features are there and examples, and practice the figure 7.26. Then chapter 8 is motion. You do not need to study that. Like I don't think any question will be asked from this, so you can comfortably skip this chapter. Then you have chapter 9, which is force and laws of motion. So know the 3 laws of motion, their practical applications, conservation of momentum and its application, and try to skip all the numerical problems. So that is given. Then chapter 10 is gravitation. So understand the concept and its applications, centripetal force versus centrifugal force, universal law of gravitation, thrust and pressure, buoyancy, Archimedes principle and its application. Very basic stuff that you need to know. Then chapter 11 is work and energy. You can speed read this chapter. There is nothing much important which is in this chapter. Then chapter 12 is sound. So try to learn the characteristics and propagation of sound wave, its loudness, its intensity, its pitch, its tone, and what is sonic boom, what is echo, what is reverberation, and their practical application. Then you have infrasound and ultrasound and how the various species use them. And then application of ultrasound is very important, especially sonar, etc. Then chapter 13 is why do we fall ill, like what are the various diseases, what are the various agents. So jump to the part of infectious diseases, then infectious agents, diseases caused by them, mechanism of spread, preventive and curative measures, etc. Then chapter 14 is natural resources. So carbon dioxide and its role in atmosphere, factors which affect wind generation and movement, this is important. Mechanism of condensation, precipitation is important. Then various causes of air pollution is important. Smog is very important. And how does lichen act as a pollution indicator, that is also important. Now various causes of water pollution, factors of soil formation, soil layers, causes of soil pollution, soil erosion, biogeochemical cycle, focus on nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, ozone layer and its depletion, etc. Then chapter 15 is improvement in food resources. So this basically talks about different types of crops which are there, conditions which are required for cultivation. Sometimes they can ask this, factors for which crop variety improvement is done. Then macro and micronutrients for plant growth. Then you have manure, so characteristics of manure, types and uses of them. Then you have fertilizers, what is the problem with the overuse of the fertilizers. Then you have organic farming, what are the methods of organic farming, what are the benefits. Then you have cropping patterns in different regions of India. Then you have need and method of storage of grains, cattle farming, different breeds, different requirements of dairy farming, cattle diseases, poultry farming, different breeds and desirable traits which are required in breeds. Then diseases and management. Then fisheries, marine and inland fish varieties. Then mariculture, then problems and solution, beekeeping or apiculture. What are the advantages of apiculture? See, they are direct question. What is apiculture? They can ask you. What is sericulture? What is pisciculture? What is mariculture? All these questions they can directly ask you. What are the different varieties of bees? 4 variety होती है. Okay, so try to learn about them and what is their significance. So I have covered all the important topics and just the class 10th NCERT is left and I'll do it later. So thank you.